Welcome to Miss Scarlett. Subscribe and don't miss out on Patreon. Have fun! As the early morning rays pierced through the window, a peculiar sight emerged from the shadows of the dusty garage. An ancient mirror with an ethereal glow. Its ornate, gilded frame stood out amidst the worn-out surroundings, like a relic from a bygone era. Among the pile of discarded appliances and well-worn books, this mirror was a strange enigma. A curious observer, seemingly out of place himself, stood before this reflection of time. His appearance suggested disarray, with messy brown hair that framed his skeptical expression, and facial hair that showcased days of neglect. He, the young man in question, spoke out with incredulity. "A fortune for an old mirror? That's quite a price, isn't it?" His gaze shifted from the mirror to the elderly woman presiding over the sale, who responded with a serene smile, revealing spotless dentures. "This isn't just any mirror, young man. It's been in my family for generations. They say it has special properties." He snorted. "Let me guess. It's magical?" "As a matter of fact, yes." She lowered her voice conspiratorially. "Legend has it that it grants wishes to those who truly need a change in perspective." "Right." He didn't bother hiding his disbelief, but something about the mirror captivated him. It would look good in his apartment, which desperately needed some decoration. After half-hearted haggling, he walked away with the mirror for $200. Hours later, he maneuvered the cumbersome mirror up 3 flights of stairs to his apartment. After positioning it against the wall of his bedroom, he stepped back to admire his purchase. "Worth every penny, right, Elias?" he muttered to himself. The mirror's reflection showed a man who looked tired, not just from carrying a heavy mirror, but from something deeper. Elias flopped onto his bed, scrolling through his phone. Another dating app, another conversation that had fizzled out after a few exchanges. "What am I doing wrong?" he wondered aloud, tossing the phone aside. For years, his dating life had been a series of first dates that never led to seconds, conversations that died midstream, and matches that unmatched before he could figure out why. His last relationship had ended 6 months ago when she told him he just didn't get it when it came to understanding her perspective. Elias got up and stood before the mirror again, studying his reflection. He wore a faded blue t-shirt and jeans, his standard uniform. Nothing special, but nothing offensive either. Average height, average build. "Maybe that's the problem," he said to his reflection. "Maybe I'm just average." The mirror seemed to shimmer slightly, though he attributed it to the evening light coming through his window. "If only I could see from a woman's perspective," he said sarcastically to the mirror. "Maybe then I'd understand why I keep striking out." The surface of the mirror rippled like disturbed water. Elias blinked, certain he must be imagining things. Then, a strange, tingling sensation spread through his body, starting at his fingertips and racing up his arms. "What the?" His voice caught in his throat, suddenly higher-pitched than normal. The tingling intensified, becoming a full-body rush that made him stagger backward. He felt lightheaded, his skin hypersensitive, his clothes suddenly ill-fitting. When the sensation subsided, Elias looked down at his body and froze in shock. His chest had swelled beneath his t-shirt, creating 2 unmistakable mounds. His waist had narrowed, his hips widened. He rushed back to the mirror, heart pounding. The reflection that stared back wasn't his, at least not the him he knew. A woman gazed back with wide, terrified eyes. She had his facial structure, but softer, more delicate. Long auburn hair cascaded past her shoulders, replacing his short brown cut. "This isn't possible," she whispered, her voice melodic and unfamiliar. She touched her face, watching her reflection mimic the movement. "This can't be real!" But the evidence was undeniable. Somehow, the mirror had transformed him into her. Panic set in. She paced the room, hands alternately clutching her new curves and running through her long auburn hair. "The mirror! The woman said it was magical. But this isn't magic. This is insanity!" She remembered the elderly woman's words. "It grants wishes to those who truly need a change in perspective." "But I was being sarcastic," she protested to the empty room. After the initial shock subsided slightly, practical concerns emerged. Her clothes hung loosely in some places and strained uncomfortably in others. Elias, no, she couldn't think of herself as Elias now, grabbed a bathrobe from behind the door and wrapped it tightly around herself. "Think," she urged herself. What now? The obvious answer was to wish herself back to normal. She approached the mirror again. "I wish to be a man again. I wish to be Elias." Nothing happened. The mirror remained just a mirror, reflecting her new female form draped in a navy bathrobe. "Please," she begged. "Change me back." Still nothing. After an hour of increasingly desperate pleas to the mirror, she slumped onto the bed. The mirror seemed to operate on its own inscrutable logic. Perhaps there was a time limit, or specific conditions that had to be met before she could change back. "I need clothes," she finally said, practical concerns asserting themselves. "And a plan." She rummaged through Elias's closet, finding a pair of sweatpants with a drawstring she could tighten around her smaller waist. A t-shirt would have to do for now, though it hung awkwardly over her new chest. She found a baseball cap and tucked her auburn hair underneath it as best she could. Looking at her reflection one more time, she made a decision. "If I'm stuck like this for now, I need a name. I can't keep thinking of myself as Elias." After a moment's consideration, she nodded. "Emily. Close enough to remember, different enough to fit." Emily slipped on a pair of Elias's sneakers, which were too large but manageable with 2 pairs of socks. Then she grabbed his wallet and keys. "Just need to get through the store without drawing attention," she muttered. The walk to the nearby department store was a revelation. Emily had never been catcalled before, but she received 2 whistles and a "Hey, beautiful!" despite her makeshift outfit. She quickened her pace, suddenly understanding why women often looked straight ahead when walking alone. Inside the store, she headed straight for the women's section, feeling utterly lost among the racks of clothing. A friendly saleswoman in her 50s approached. "Can I help you find something, dear?" Emily cleared her throat nervously. I lost my luggage traveling. Need some basics." The saleswoman, whose name tag read Margaret, nodded sympathetically. "Let's get you sorted. What kind of style do you usually wear?" "Simple, practical, nothing too flashy," Emily managed, having no idea what her style as a woman should be. Margaret proved to be a godsend, helping Emily select a simple black dress. Every woman needs one. A pair of well-fitting jeans, several blouses in various colors, and, crucially, undergarments that actually fit. The experience of being measured for a bra was mortifying but necessary. "You have such lovely auburn hair," Margaret commented as Emily was checking out. "You should try the emerald green blouse. It would complement your coloring beautifully." Emily added the emerald blouse to her purchases. a strange flutter of pleasure cutting through her anxiety. Back at the apartment, Emily changed into her new clothes. The black dress fit perfectly, making her feel oddly elegant despite her confusion. She stood before the mirror again, but not to plead for transformation. This time, she studied her new self with curiosity rather than panic. "Okay, Emily," she said to her reflection. "You're stuck like this for now. Might as well make the most of it." She remembered her sarcastic wish to see from a woman's perspective. Well, now she had her chance. Maybe this was the mirror's strange way of granting her wish literally. And maybe once she'd learned whatever lesson the mirror thought she needed, she'd change back automatically. "A few days," she decided. "I'll give it a few days, learn whatever I'm supposed to learn, and then figure out how to change back." The logistics were daunting. She couldn't go to work as Emily. How would she explain suddenly being a woman to her colleagues at the accounting firm? Fortunately, she had vacation days saved up. A quick email to her boss claiming a family emergency bought her 2 weeks of time. Then there was the question of how to navigate the world as a woman. Emily had dated women, but she realized with growing discomfort how little she knew about their daily experiences. "One day at a time," she told herself, hanging up her new clothes in the closet alongside Elias's. The contrast was striking, her simple, colorful blouses next to his monochromatic button-downs. That night, sleep eluded her. Her body felt foreign, softer, curved in unfamiliar places. When she finally drifted off, her dreams were a confused jumble of identities and perspectives. Morning brought new challenges. The simple act of getting dressed became a complex decision tree. Emily opted for the jeans and a royal blue blouse, then stared at her unmade face in the bathroom mirror. Makeup, she realized. She hadn't thought to buy any. As Elias, he'd never considered how much effort might go into a natural look. She made a mental note to visit a drugstore later. Venturing outside as Emily felt like stepping onto a foreign planet, the same neighborhood took on a different quality. Men who had never given Elias a second glance now tracked Emily with their eyes. A guy in a business suit smiled at her on the street, then frowned when she didn't smile back.
"You should smile more,"
he called after her.
"Too pretty to look so serious."
Emily bristled, picking up her pace. She'd heard women complain about such comments before, but experiencing it firsthand made her skin crawl. At the cafe where Elias was a regular, Emily ordered his usual black coffee. The barista, who knew Elias by name, treated her like a stranger, which she found both relieving and disconcerting.
$5,
he said, and Emily handed over the cash. As she waited for her drink, she noticed a subtle difference in how people moved around her. As Elias, other customers had given him a wide berth. As Emily, men seemed to stand just a little too close, invading her personal space in a way that felt deliberate. Her coffee arrived, and she took it to a corner table, observing the dynamics of the cafe with new eyes. 2 businesswomen at a nearby table were having an intense conversation, their body language confident yet restrained. Emily found herself studying how they sat, how they gestured, trying to decode the unwritten rules of feminine behavior. Over the next few days, Emily settled into a routine of observation and adaptation. She bought minimal makeup and learned through YouTube tutorials how to apply it. She practiced walking in the low heels she'd purchased, discovering muscles she never knew existed. She learned which streets felt safe to walk alone and which didn't. A week into her transformation, Emily realized something startling. She was beginning to feel comfortable in this body. not just resigned, but actually at ease. The initial alienation had faded, replaced by a growing sense that this form fit her in ways her male body never had. The thought was unsettling. She had been so certain she wanted to change back as soon as possible. But now, looking at her reflection as she brushed her auburn hair before bed, she wasn't so sure. Maybe this is what the mirror wanted me to realize, she murmured to herself. That night, she dreamed of her life as Elias, but the dream Elias moved awkwardly, as if uncomfortable in his own skin. She woke feeling confused, but strangely liberated. The next morning, Emily decided to test the waters of social interaction. She'd been mostly keeping to herself, but isolation wasn't sustainable. She needed to know if she could pass convincingly as a woman in conversation, not just appearance. She chose a bookstore cafe she'd never visited as Elias. Dressed in her black dress and a cardigan, with her auburn hair loose around her shoulders, she felt both nervous and excited. The cafe was busy with the weekend crowd. Emily ordered a chai latte, something Elias had never tried, and found a small table near the window. She pulled out a book she'd brought along, but her attention kept drifting to the conversations around her. "Is this seat taken?" Emily looked up to find a woman about her age, gesturing to the empty chair at her table. She had cropped blonde hair and wore a paint-splattered denim jacket over a white t-shirt. "No, go ahead," Emily said, momentarily terrified her voice would give her away. "Thanks. This place is packed today." The woman set down her coffee and sketchbook. "I'm Renee, by the way." "Emily," she replied, the name feeling more natural on her lips than it had a week ago. Renee opened her sketchbook, revealing detailed architectural drawings. Emily found herself genuinely interested. "Those are amazing," she said. "Are you an architect?" Renee looked up with a smile. "Trying to be. Still in graduate school. What about you?" "I'm in accounting," Emily said automatically, then realized her mistake. Emily had no work history, no credentials. I'm between jobs right now. Accounting is what I'm trained for." The conversation flowed surprisingly easily. Emily discovered that socializing as a woman felt different. There was an openness, a willingness to share personal details that men often avoided with each other. Renee told her about her struggle to be taken seriously in a male-dominated field, and Emily found herself sharing her own frustrations about workplace dynamics, carefully editing her experiences to fit her current identity. "It's like they expect you to be twice as good but also non-threatening," Renee sighed. "Heaven forbid you show ambition." Emily nodded, remembering how differently her female colleagues had been treated at the accounting firm.
"And if you're assertive, suddenly you're difficult." "Exactly. You get it."
Renee glanced at her watch. "I should go. Meeting my study group. But this was nice. Would you want to grab coffee sometime? I'm new in town and could use a friend." The invitation caught Emily off guard. As Elias, making friends had always been a deliberate, somewhat awkward process. This had happened naturally. "I'd like that," she said, and meant it. They exchanged numbers, and Emily watched Renee leave, feeling a peculiar mix of emotions. She'd just had her first friendship interaction as a woman, and it had gone well. But what would happen if, when, she changed back to Elias? All these new connections would be lost. The question haunted her as she walked home. Was she building a life that was destined to disappear? Or was this new existence meant to be permanent? Back at her apartment, Emily stood before the magical mirror once more. "What am I supposed to do?" she asked it. "Keep living as Emily? Go back to being Elias? Give me a sign." The mirror remained stubbornly ordinary, reflecting only her frustrated expression. Emily sank onto the edge of her bed, thoughts churning. She'd been Emily for nearly 2 weeks now. Her vacation days were almost used up. She needed to make decisions about her future. That evening, her phone buzzed with a text from Renee, inviting her to an art gallery opening the following night. Emily stared at the message, weighing her options. Going meant further establishing Emily's existence, deepening connections that might have to be severed. Refusing meant retreating back into isolation. "One more night," she decided, typing her acceptance. "One more experience as Emily before I figure out what to do." The gallery was housed in a converted warehouse, its industrial ceiling crisscrossed with exposed beams and track lighting. Art, in bold colors and abstract forms, lined the whitewashed walls. Emily wore her black dress with a borrowed necklace of chunky amber beads that complemented her auburn hair. Renee greeted her with a quick hug. "You look amazing! Come on, there's someone I want you to meet." She led Emily through the crowd to a tall man with glasses and a thoughtful expression, who was studying a large canvas of swirling blues and greens. "Emily, this is Owen. He teaches at my school, and he's the one who told me about this opening." Owen turned and smiled warmly.
"Nice to meet you, Emily. Any friend of Renee's is welcome company."
Emily shook his hand, suddenly self-conscious. As Elias, she'd interacted with men as equals, competitors, colleagues. As Emily, there was a different energy to the exchange. Owen's hand lingered a moment longer than necessary. His eyes held hers with clear interest. The evening unfolded in a blur of introductions, conversations about art Emily knew little about, and the gradual relaxation that came with a glass of white wine. She found herself enjoying the social dynamics, the easy flow of conversation among Renee's artist friends. Owen stayed near her most of the evening, offering insights about the artwork without condescension. Emily caught herself responding to his attention, laughing at his dry observations, standing perhaps a bit closer than strictly necessary.
"What do you think of this one?"
Owen asked, gesturing to a canvas dominated by crimson strokes that seemed almost violent in their intensity. Emily studied it, searching for an honest response rather than what she thought she should say. "It makes me uncomfortable," she admitted. "But I think that's the point. It's about disruption, breaking through something." Owen looked at her with newfound respect. "That's exactly right. The artist calls it transformation. It's about the painful process of becoming." The word resonated through Emily like a bell. Transformation. Becoming. Wasn't that exactly what she was experiencing? Later, as the crowd thinned, Owen asked for her number. The request sent a jolt of conflicted emotions through Emily. On one hand, she was flattered. Owen was intelligent, attractive, respectful. On the other hand, what was she doing? As Elias, she'd been attracted to women. As Emily, she wasn't sure anymore. The boundaries seemed fluid, her sense of self still forming. "I'm still figuring some things out," she said finally. "Can we start with friendship?" Owen seemed surprised, but nodded. "Of course, no pressure." As she and Renee walked to the subway afterward, Renee nudged her playfully. "Owen never asks anyone out. You made quite an impression." Emily flushed. "He seems nice, but I'm not ready for dating." Bad breakup? Renee guessed. Something like that, Emily replied. More like an identity crisis. Renee laughed, assuming she was being metaphorical. Those are the worst. Take your time. The good ones will wait. That night, Emily dreamed she was standing before 2 doors. Behind one, she could see Elias's life. Familiar, established, but somehow flat. Behind the other was a swirling unknown, frightening but vibrant with possibility. She woke with a sense of clarity. 2 weeks, as Emily had taught her more about herself than years as Elias. The discomfort she'd always felt in social situations, the awkwardness in her own body. It hadn't been shyness or social anxiety. It had been a fundamental misalignment between who she was inside and the form she inhabited. Emily approached the mirror once more, this time not to beg for reversal, but to express gratitude. I understand now, she said softly to her reflection. This is who I was always meant to be. The mirror seemed to shimmer slightly in acknowledgement. Her vacation days were gone. Emily needed to create a life for herself, a job, documentation, a way forward. She couldn't simply vanish Elias and emerge fully formed as Emily. The transition would require explanation, planning, courage. First, she needed to tell someone the truth. Renee had become a friend, but the story was too fantastical, the connection too new. Instead, Emily called the one person who might believe her, Elias's sister, Hannah. We need to talk, Emily said when Hannah answered. It's about Elias. Something's happened, and it's going to sound impossible. They met at a quiet corner of a park, away from curious ears. Hannah arrived looking worried, clearly not recognizing the auburn-haired woman who had called her. Hannah, Emily said. It's me. It's Elias. Hannah's expression shifted from confusion to wariness. I don't know what kind of game you're playing, but you broke your arm when you were 9 because I dared you to climb the oak tree in Grandma's backyard, Emily said quickly. You never told Mom it was my idea. You have a birthmark shaped like Florida on your right shoulder. You're allergic to kiwi fruit, and you cried for 3 days when our dog Rusty died. Hannah stared, open-mouthed. How do you know all that? Because I'm Elias. Or I was. Emily took a deep breath and explained everything. The mirror, the transformation, the discoveries of the past 2 weeks. To her credit, Hannah listened without interruption, her expression moving from disbelief to cautious consideration. This is insane, Hannah said when Emily finished. But there's something about you. Your expressions, the way you talk. It's him. You, somehow. You believe me? Emily asked, hope rising. Hannah ran a hand through her hair, a gesture so reminiscent of Elias that Emily almost smiled. I don't know what I believe, but I know my brother wouldn't make up a story this elaborate. And if it is true, are you okay? This must be terrifying. That's the strangest part, Emily admitted. At first, yes, but now it feels right. Like I've been living in the wrong body all along, and this is who I'm supposed to be. Hannah studied her for a long moment. Elias was always contained. Even as a kid, he held himself apart, like he was uncomfortable in his own skin. She reached out and took Emily's hand. You seem more present, more connected. Tears welled in Emily's eyes. I am. So what now? Hannah asked, pragmatically. You can't just start over with no history, no ID. That's where I need your help, Emily said. Legally, medically, practically, I need to transition Elias's life to Emily's, not overnight, but gradually. The conversation lasted hours, delving into the practical complexities of Emily's situation. Hannah, ever the problem solver, began making lists on her phone, people to contact, resources to investigate, steps to take. Living as your authentic self is hard enough when you do it the conventional way, Hannah said. Your path is unconventional, to say the least. Emily laughed, the sound still sometimes surprising her with its musical quality. Understatement of the century. That evening, Emily stood before the mirror once more. Her auburn hair framed a face that now felt familiar, her emerald green blouse bringing out the warmth in her complexion. Thank you, she said to the mirror, for showing me who I really am. The mirror's surface rippled one last time, then stilled. Emily knew somehow that its magic was complete. The transformation was permanent, not because the mirror held her captive in this form, but because this form was her truth. The journey ahead would be challenging. There would be those who wouldn't understand, paperwork that would seem insurmountable, explanations that would be difficult to craft. But for the first time in her life, Emily felt whole. The disconnect between inner and outer self had vanished. She stepped away from the mirror, no longer needing its reflection to confirm what she now knew with certainty. Emily was not a temporary state, a lesson to be learned before returning to Elias. Emily was who she had always been, beneath the surface, waiting to emerge. Her phone buzzed with a text from Renee, asking if she wanted to meet for coffee again. Another message followed from Hannah, with links to legal resources for name changes. Emily smiled as she typed her replies. The future stretched before her, unknown, but full of possibility. Not as a man struggling to understand women's perspectives, but as a woman embracing her own perspective at last. The mirror that had once been magical now hung on her wall, just an ordinary antique with an ornate golden frame. Its purpose fulfilled, its magic expended. Emily no longer needed its enchantment. The real magic had been discovering her true self, hidden all along behind a reflection that never quite seemed right. As evening fell, Emily opened her closet and looked at the clothes hanging there. Elias's faded blues and grays pushed to one side, her own colorful blouses and dresses taking more space each day. Soon, she would donate what she no longer needed, making room for the wardrobe of her authentic life. For now, though, she simply ran her fingers along the fabrics, each one representing a choice made freely, each one a small celebration of finally becoming who she was meant to be.
Thanks for watching, my girlies! Be sure to check out Patreon for more!